Hi, Professor Raghavendra MJ. Welcome for One Day Faculty Development Program, a national webinar on publication ethics, understanding plagiarism, which is organized by Sanatana Research and Training Institute, a unit of Sanatana with God with energy in order to achieve a purpose. So let us begin this inaugural ceremony by seeking the blessings of the Lord Almighty. Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandra Raghunataya Natha Sitaya Pataye Namaha. It is the supreme art of teacher awakening joy in creativity, expression and knowledge. I request Dr. Ramachandra CG, the Managing Director of Sanatana Research and Training Institute, to welcome and introduce the speakers of today's session.
A very good morning, one and all. I take this opportunity on behalf of Sanatana Research and Training Institute, which is a unit of Sanatana Samprathisthana, Mysuru, to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Medha Joshi, a consultant, Information Management and Services and Bioethics, a consultant, Information Services, National Cancer Grade, Tata Memorial Center, Mumbai, and today's guest, Dr. Raghavendra Prasad MD, the President, Rotary Club of Mysore West, and dear participants from different parts of the country, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Odisha, and even from other country, Bangladesh. Coming to her education qualification, today's chief guest, she has completed her BSc and Bachelor in Library Science and Masters in Library Science and PG Diploma in Bioethics and Specialization Clinical Research, and she has done her PhD like LIS Information Search Behavior, and she has successfully headed libraries at 3 major institutes in progressively responsible positions in terms of librarianship, state-of-art technology and services, specializes in biomedical and hospital and clinical librarianship. She designed and delivered several specialized information services and developed a library-based information system for all media. And she's an independent consultant that is to provide services for information management, information literacy, search skills, research ethics, publication ethics, and to conduct literature search with expertise in healthcare. And coming to national cancer grade, focus is to support information needs to all NCG member centers, web content manager of NCG website, facilitate e-learning activities and conduct and facilitate webinars for information literacy program for all centers. Formerly heading Department of Library Science at Tata Memorial Hospital, Tata Memorial Center, Mumbai. And coming to bioethics part, she is a member of National Tumor Tissue Repository Committee of TMC, member on ICMR Research Ethics Committee, and member on several institutional and independent ethics committee in Mumbai, serves as international surveyor for SIDCR FER CAP, who initiate for Asia Pacific region for more than a decade. A unique contribution of her are a special collection of India specific cancer publications and system for in-house generated non-print and unpublished material using DSpace. She was involved in several activities related to EMR and development of document management systems for quality management. She served as web content manager at EMC, member and member secretary of Institutional Ethics Committee, member of Scientific Research Committee, and was convener and editor for TMC Annual Report Committee during her tenure at TMC. Conducted several seminars and conferences in healthcare librarianship, clinical research ethics for library, professional and users, and presented several in LIS and bioethics national and international conferences. She has received Outstanding International Surveyor Award for FAR-CAP, WHO initiative in bioethics. Academic awards: Professor Marshall Award for First Division at Master in Library Science and Srimati Khandapala Award for PhD Research and Assist for International Professional Essay. And her associations are Vice President, IAS LIC Western Zone 2018 till date, Past President, SLA Asian Chapter 2013, and General Health Library Association of India and member BOSLA. So this is a brief introduction, and before starting today's session, let me start the today's session with the word plagiarism. Okay, the word plagiarism was from the Latin word that is plagiaris, which means to kidnap. That means, as the plagiarism definitions says or suggests, the process or practice of using another person's idea or work in your work, we can call it as a plagiarism. If you take information, there is one quote. Let me start with this quote. If you take information from one author, okay, it is plagiarism. And if you take information from many such authors or any other work, it is called a research. Okay, the knowledge is devised, as always say, and it is, the knowledge is powerful too, and it should be shared. Then only we can also update our knowledge. Okay, the basic intention to organize this today's program, that is one-day faculty development program on a national webinar on publication ethics and understanding plagiarism, is to provide a detailed information about the ethics to be followed in research and in writing thesis, in publishing a paper, and even what exactly a plagiarism, what are the different types of plagiarisms, and how to avoid or manage plagiarism while writing thesis or paper, etc. So these are some of the content. So our today's speaker, she'll speak in a session with this. I wish all the participants will have a fruitful interaction with the speaker. Once again, I thank one and all.
Thank you, sir. Now I request today's guest, Dr. Raghavendra Prasad, MD, President of Rotary Club of Mysore West, to say a few about the today's program.
Good morning, all. So on the onset, first I want to congratulate Dr. Ramchandra CG for organizing such a valuable seminars from past couple of weeks. He has started this. I wish him a great success in this. So personally, I know Dr. Ramchandra, so we have studied together. So right from the early days, he was more into knowledge sharing. So, and he formed an organization as a Sanatana Samprita Trust. So under this head, so they are taking up this knowledge sharing session. So heartily congratulations to Dr. Ramchandra Seji.
Thank you.
And coming on to the president of Rotary Club of Mysore West, here our main objective is to serve the society. Serve the society, we have so many avenues of service. One may be a community service, then we have vocational service, next we have youth service, like this. I think this, when Ramchandra told me about this, I was very much happier to be associated with this organization as a president of it. So here we are sharing the community. So in this regard, I just don't want to take much of the time. I congratulate the entire team for organizing this, and I wish him to organize much more seminar like this, which will help the community. Because basically, even me and Ramchandra did our post-graduation together. We know, because I've gone through this plagiarism things. In our days, it was the information was not over there. Even I think midway we came to know about plagiarism. I think this is a very good thing, especially for the budding researcher, to know about the plagiarism, and and that will help in their research. So with this, I want to once again thank Dr. Ramchandra Seji for providing an opportunity to speak on this issue. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request today's speaker, Dr. Medha Joshi, Consultant, Information Management and Services and Bioethics, Consultant, Information Service, National Cancer Grid, Tata Memorial Center, Mumbai, to start the session.
Okay, so
You can start sharing your PPT, madam.
for others to look into it. That means what we do research, complete honesty, integrity, without any harm to anything. So even when we do data which is manipulated, we have harm because the results will be bad. They will be used at places which will give a bad impact. So it is about the integrity and honesty with what we do, and we automatically be responsible for what we have done, and we take control of the situations if they are started going haywire in the research period. So sometimes it's so often that the research are not happening well, it doesn't move in the proper direction all the time. You are expected as an investigator to stop it and restart it with a new thing so that you are not harming further, any harms are not created. But when we are doing writing of it, so once you have done the research and the report comes in, that means you are writing about it. You want to disseminate what you have obtained in the research, and you want to disseminate it through publication. And publication has its own set of guidelines and own set of ethical aspects. There are plenty. We will talk about plagiarism today. So we'll just move on. Publication ethics is nothing but a misconduct that happens during the research process or during publications or during both. Because if our research process are faulty, the publications are also going to be with misfaults or a lot of faults there. There are guidelines and there are plagiarisms, or there are ethical concerns about authorships, how the authorship will be, in what order it will be, whether we will guest author, we will have a guest author, or we will gift away authorship to it. They are also publication ethics. There are conflict of interest. You have conflict of interest all through in your research. So the issue with ethical concern is that you identify what is the kind of conflict of interest and how do you handle it, or how do you manage it in the process. For example, if I am conducting a research and I'm doing with some product which is from a company, and I'm on board of the company, I have a conflict. If I'm a guide of the student and I'm going to review the project as a reviewer, I have a conflict. I have shares in a certain company, or I have funded a particular institution and with this usual way, who's been affected by it, he just loses one credit for himself. So this is what, or herself. So this is what happens, and that's why it's very, very important that upfront we are very moral about what we do. So responsibilities of an author. I mean, they are researchers and they become author. All of us are authors, right? Whether you write an email, you write a blog, you make a presentation, or you write a manuscript, you write a book, you write a research paper, you write an essay, we have our responsibilities, and these responsibilities, the first thing I must write where I am qualified to write for and I have the expertise to hold about it. The data collection and ownership should be well defined. The data collection should be transparent, and it should be, See, when I do this, only then my publication is going to be correct. When I'm faulty at this place, my publication is going to be faulty as well. And in publication, it gets magnified, because then you are writing it down, you're making it known to the whole people. So there will be reviewers who will pick up. There will be peer groups, peer reviewers into your area or peers into your subjects who will understand what has gone wrong, because they have looked into the research or that domain for such a long time. And there are so many such examples all around here. I will then avoid ghost authorship or gifting authorship. A committee on research ethics, publication ethics is there, that is called as COPE. And if you go to their websites, you will find so many such cases get filed every day. Some get to an end, a fruition, where their decision is taken, some action is taken, but some of them just hang around for a long time, because either the institute doesn't know what to do, doesn't want to take an action, or there are certain just going on of give and take happening between the authors and the complaint person and the COPE, and it goes on and on with the committee, and it never ends. So at that time, sometimes it is very difficult to prove that this has been done, misconduct has happened. So but you can go there and see that how many kind of publication misconduct happens, and what is the area where we should avoid. There are so many things. There's ownership data. Sometimes you take up a funding from some institute. It comes on your name because the project is yours. It goes for some research goes on for a few years, okay? But sometime down the line, you leave the institute either for a better position, or you retire, you superannuate, and then somebody else takes over, because you do not carry the project along with you, because without infrastructure, you just can't do. So you hand it over to the institute. Now, and there are many policies of every institute of what happens when some research is going on and the person leaves. What happens to the project? The project has to continue. You cannot stop midway and say we are done because the investigator left. So it goes on. But when the first publication comes, the first investigator can come back and say, hey, this I started, this data was collected by me, I should get the first authorship. Now that's where conflicts begin. Because if as an institute, if I do not have a typical guideline on authorship, I'm going to land into this trouble sometime. It can be a major issue, it can be a smaller issue, it can go up to the ethics committees, it can go to the publication group, and it can go to COPE as well, it can go to Office of Research Integrity as well. So these are what happens, and therefore it is very essential that upfront I am sure of, as a responsibility of my author, when I work, we all do interdisciplinary research. So we have experts from different domain. Why are we wanting? Because they bring knowledge, they add value to the research that I'm doing. So they bring in a lot of expertise and experience to the research table. And therefore they must be credited. How they will be credited, how their authorship will be done, in which order it will be done, it should be discussed upfront. That is what the International Journal of Medical Editors Committee, ICJME, says that your authorship order should be decided upfront, and every author's contribution also should be decided upfront, and only then you begin with, so that there are no hassles at the end when the paper is about to get published, you start picking up on your rights. So that is what is required, and as a responsibility as an author for us. So what is plagiarism? Is a theft. In simple terms, I'm stealing somebody's and passing it off as my own. That is plagiarism. I'm not giving credits. You always build research on somebody else's research, but I do not want to give that credit. Somebody comes over, takes over, does much better, expands it, but because the base was there, you have expanded. Had the base not been there, would it be possible for us to expand on that subject or on that domain or do good research applications out of it? It's not possible. So it's always better. We always stand on somebody's shoulders, but we must credit that person. It's very, very important for us to credit. So when we don't credit and we take it over and we just publish it very slyly, saying that, oh, this is what, neither I say it is done by somebody else, nor do I credit, then I'm a theft. I've done a theft, and that becomes plagiarism. Now, there will be several types. So it is what? It is a fraud. It is breach of honesty. It is stealing and lying. It's actually ethical misconduct in your publication. Now, when I do plagiarism occur, when I present somebody else's work as my own, it's plagiarism. When I copy words, ideas, phrases, and I don't credit, I have plagiarized. If I put a cite, but I incorrectly cite, I misspell the author, I do not add the initials, I give the year, but I don't give the volume and the number, or I give volume issue of the journal, I don't give the year, I give the publisher, I give the title of the book incomplete, I don't say which chapter it is. All these are incomplete. All citations are addresses. Why do I need to give them? I need to give them because if as a reader, if somebody wants to refer to the original, they should know where it is. I just cannot say Joshi et al. What is Joshi et al? It has no sense. It should tell me this is the person, these are the initials, this is the title, published where. I cannot reach an address of any relative or any friend of mine or any institution if I do not have a proper complete address. I cannot go on asking people on the road where it is, right? It's the same. It's as same as that. So incorrect source is also plagiarism. That means I have purposefully hidden it. I'm deceiving my user, my reader, and that's not permitted in research. Okay. Changing words. I change words. I make some changes here and there, use some synonyms, but the whole structure of the sentence remains the same. It is plagiarism. I do inappropriate paraphrasing. So what we do in literature review or you do in discussions, you paraphrase from somewhat you have read, but that is not actually what you do. You pick up the paragraph and you just change some phrases and just write it into your own, then you cite it. But when you submit it to public a plagiarism check, it will be picked up. Why? Because more than 20% is the similar to the original. So that's having cited doesn't solve your problem. The thing is, when you write, you must paraphrase it appropriately in your own words. So it is summarizing of what you read. So literature review is a big issue in theses. When we try to do a literature review, we copy paste from different things. And we actually write an annotated bibliography, but we are not writing about the whole universe of the concept that we are researching upon. So that is an issue of writing, but that's also an issue of paraphrasing and inappropriate citations. So that is what is falling out. I quote some very big thing. We are often fond of putting in big quotes because sort of gives a ornament to our writing. But I do not put it into quotes. I do not say whose quote it is. I have plagiarized. I can't do that. So this is what is plagiarism can happen. Citations and references, you plagiarize even that. When you are careless in citing sources, you do incomplete. You may say, maybe the article is from Nature Medicine. I say Nature Oncology. Okay. So I have deceit. I'm careless. I'm not bothered. So what do we suggest? We always suggest our researchers that whenever you start reading, make it a point to record what you have read in complete. So whenever you want to go back, you have the complete citation and you will always do a correct citation. You can use your own methods. You can use CARD, your own Excel sheet, or you can use Citation Manager for this. It's much simpler these days than what it was been earlier during my time. So you can use that. You often use citation biases. Now this means if my research is going in one direction, I will not cite something that doesn't support my findings. I'm biased. When I do write, I must say what is happening in this universe. It's okay, I'm finding something different. Or I'm not finding what others have done, but I'm doing it differently. I have a different method. I have a different population. My results are different. I'm fine. But I should not be doing that. Only that support what I'm stating, only those are cited. So I have citation bias. That's also plagiarism. They're all ethical questions. Citation stuffing. I know this paper is going to this journal because that's where it belongs, and there will be these editors. I better cite some of these editors. Why? They will approve, right? So this is stuffing. So they may not be related to actually the concept of my research or my research paper or my review paper or my thesis, and this is what happens. So that is one. So relying on abstract is something also which is very, very not correct. Because when you write on an abstract and you cite the abstract, when you read the whole paper, perhaps the outcome is completely different. Remember, abstract is only a general summary of what you can expect in this paper. Now with the structured abstract is much more clear, but even then the discussions and the arrival to conclusions may vary. So it's always better read the full text and then cite, because it may not talk what you are writing for what you're citing it in your text. So that's very, very important. Often what happens, these abstracts are presented in conferences and the paper doesn't come out at all, and you cite that. The paper of that whole abstract comes out in a well-formed, including all suggestions at a later end, after maybe 1 year. So the data is much redundant by that time. The results may not be relevant to you, but because you have cited the abstract, you know, there is a difference between the two things. So be very sure about this. Unless you have completely understood what is being cited, you should not citing sources that you have not read completely. It's based on an abstract, which is just kind of a summary, not even a structured abstract. And maybe you have not made an attempt to search a full text. So always write to the author and ask for a full text copy. You never know, the paper may come out very different than the abstract. So that is why it is very, very important to look at this. So there are a lot of causes. You know, we have seen so many papers were extracted. This is something in 2013 by Business Standard. And there are a lot of things in these, and you find that the maximum ones that have gone there is by fraudulent and duplication of publications. This is also plagiarism. The fraudulence of data is not plagiarism. It is ethical misconduct or integrity issue in the research. But duplication and plagiarism forms very close to close. You do a duplication of your publications, once in this journal, after in your another journal, then if you're duplicating things, you're adding weeds to the reservoir, which really makes no sense. They just keep floating. Two different people in two different contexts will cite these papers. You get the citations, so benefited to you, but actually the science or the research doesn't benefit from this. So we don't look at these things, and therefore it's very, very important for us. So there are different types of plagiarism. Word to word, you don't even change the comma out of it. So it is so similar, and I have seen in my profession, I have seen identical papers by two different authors in a span of some 2 years in two different publications. But if you read the paper, right from the first word till the conclusion, everything is same, not a comma was altered. So word to word, that is plagiarism. How it comes to notice to us, because we as librarians or as information professionals, we index a lot of material which is relevant to our institute, and we started indexing a lot of things, and we came across several such papers. We took up the matter, we went to the organizations of those authors, we told them this is what has happened, but that was too early. People were not so aware of plagiarism, and therefore they also did not know how to handle this situation. The situation can be handled when the institute has its own committee and these issues get addressed there. And they have their own guidelines about publication ethics, authorship, and plagiarism, how they are going to handle it, how much is tolerant to them. Of course, UGC has come up with these guidelines now, but otherwise, there are self-plagiarism. Often we do research and we say it's a continuation of my previous research, and we start citing, self-citing. Whatever is relevant, yes, in moderation, self-citing is okay. But when you extensively self-moderate, self-cite, that means you're plagiarizing. You're plagiarizing yourself. So this also reaches there. Salami slicing. Salami slicing is something too huge data, and you put it into small bits and start publishing. Now, there are certain domains which domain experts say this is actually okay. But there are certain domains who will say, well, the whole data, when you analyze, it may give you a completely different picture. But when you do it in small bouts, the single data may be meaning differently and may not sum up to the total analysis that you do at the end. So salami slicing is also kind of publication, and UGC takes note of that. Text recycling, sometimes it's permissible, where when you write a proposal, you go to a funding agency and they say, well, this is not in our domain, why don't you try some other agency? You need to put it to others, so you recycle this because it has to fit the format of the other funding agency. But often if I recycle my own text in a different format, add some here and there, make some differences in latest references and submit, that is plagiarism and that is not permissible. So there's again a fine line between text recycling, but this happens. Paraphrasing, of course, it's summarization, but in your own words and citing them. The length of the paraphrase may not be the same as the original paraphrase. It can be bigger, it can be smaller. You actually summarize, so it should be small, but the meaning should remain the same, and the relatedness to why you're doing it in your manuscript should be there. If it is unrelated, also it is plagiarism. If it is incorrect, also it is plagiarism. This you will find in a lot of theses and articles, which are review articles, where you compile a lot of literature and put it together. Images. We can talk of photography images, but when as a researcher, I would want to pick up an image from some place, some source, some thesis, some PowerPoint presentations, and do not give credits. I may pick up a thesis, I may make an alteration image. It can be a table, it can be a chart, it can be a pencil drawing, it can be a photograph, it can be anything. All that I would want to insert in my academic research, I'm permitted to do so, provided I give credits and provided I seek permissions. Now, when I say images, I take a lot of graphical things. I have a table, but I alter that table to suit my data that I have collected. And I then don't cite. This is not acceptable because your table is based on somebody else's already done thing. So the headers are same, the columns, the subheadings are same. You have just changed the data. Maybe you have used a different word for a certain kind of heading and subheading. You have adopted. So right below the table, you will say source, adopted from, and give the details below the table and include that citation at the end of your references or end of your manuscripts in the list of references. Patchwork often happens in a literature review. What we do, we read a lot of things and we just pick from here, pick from there, don't cite and put it as an essay of our own. Patchwork, and we can see that. Words and speeches are also different kinds. So actually, if you see, the blue ones are something that we should be talking about and not more about the lower parts of this. So look at this word to word. This is an example. Now, a lot of examples are here whereby I think it becomes more clearer to us. Please, somebody call me if I'm thrown out of the network, okay? Because I don't realize that suddenly when I'm talking about. So this is a document which I have said that freeman and slave, partisan, plebeian, lord and serf guided all this to one another. I put it into quote and I have said this is the original. This comes from this source. Now when I do, I write this and I do not quote. I picked up as is. I have not said from where it is. I have not cited. I'm not even giving the first author's name here. So it is plagiarism. Why it is plagiarized? Because there are no words have been changed and there is no reference to the source, nor there is a quotation mark. Remember, when I quote somebody, it has to be into quotes. This is an example of thesis from I picked this up from Mumbai Mirror because this was reported in Mumbai Mirror. Some professor and his wife, the wife did the PhD and 2 chapters were verbatim production of this. Now this is very serious, originally from another professor who happens to be her husband. The contents of chapter 5 and 6 were verbatim and the re-examination of MPhil was degree. They raised questions, the reviewers, they say the thesis attracts suspicions, deserves to be dealt appropriately, that means investigate. Now what happens, what does the original person say is, well, I'm aware. Help her, I know she has picked up chapters from my thesis and she has cited me, so I have no problems. She has acknowledged me, so I have no problems and therefore no complaints. So this should be okay and there should be no investigations or appropriate dealing for this, it should be accepted. But what is this? Is this correct? This is word to word. When I am doing my research, I am expected to write my own. I may adopt from several other places and say that this is what the universe says in this domain, but this is my opinion And in context to my research, this is what my perception is about it. I'm fine. I don't have to be positive always. I can always be negative. I can show the challenges. I can show the negative areas of this, because this is a research argument and should be taken in that spirit. But if this is done, this is verbatim copying. So not a comma change, it is plagiarism. So even if you cite, but you don't change anything, the review or the ethics committees or the reviewers of your theses are going to pick this up and put you into trouble. So be very careful. There are so many cases which we have read, we have so often done. 70 papers by this professor from Venkateshwara University during 2003-07. All were falsifying, plagiarizing data. So research integrity was an issue and plagiarism was also an issue, and all these were retracted. Such a bad name forever. So Elsevier has since then retracted 13 articles from this person. So he must have published in different journals. This is what happened. Of course, Dr. Chiranjeevi refuses. He says this is wrong. The committee has barred him from, but there is a punishment. He cannot take exams. He cannot take students. He will not get any administrative positions. So that's how it impacts you. Okay. If you go to this another one, this is a IIT Kharagpur, Professor Chaudhary. Junior member made a complaint that sharing credits was not done well. He lost his HOD position because of that, because the committee found the guilt and has suspended his HOD position. Anup Ghosh and IIT and papers were retracted in January 2010 by Nuclear Instrument Medical Physics on charges of plagiarism. This is what happens. Ashok Kumar, again accused of plagiarism charges by Biotechnology Advances, retracted 2 of his articles. So this is what happens. So these are retraction notices that come. Now, these retraction notices may come much, much later than the article has been published, because it gets published, it goes into circulation, somebody picks it up, then files a complaint, then there is an investigation, and then the retraction happens. So between the publication and the retraction, the action that is taken, there can be a gap of 1 to 2 years. It doesn't happen immediately, because the complainant also gets a right, also gets a chance to defend and show the proof that this is not true. So it takes a longer time. But by that time, that faulty or misconducted paper circulates everywhere. People cite it also. And then the retraction comes. So how has it helped? It doesn't help the researcher. It doesn't help the person who has fraudulated. So it takes a longer time in this process. So ideally, morally, we should be very sure what are we doing about it. Self-plagiarism, as I said, it is deceiving others. Keep on citing your own self. Show as if it is your new data that I have done, but it is plagiarism. You say it is a continuation of research. It is not. Somewhere in the introduction or literature review, I have some similarity in my own paper, so I cite it here. Well, that's not a citation in context or relatedness. So therefore, what will happen? Redundancy will come. There will be duplication of data. So there are dual publications. This amounts to academic dishonesty. I'm dishonest with my own group of people who are in my own stream and adding value. I'm dishonest to the research environment where I'm adding my outputs, and these outputs are not going to be useful because they are fraudulent or they are not. I do salami slicing, again the same. I fragment the data, analyze it separately. If you completely analyze together, then the outcome of that research would be completely different than your fragmented data. Now, many streams, as I was said earlier, may permit you, some streams may not permit you, and they are viewed very seriously. They do not allow you to do this. It is also dependent on publication policies of that particular journal on this, and the research committee policies of the institution. So it all is domain related, but it is viewed seriously in terms of publication ethics. Copyright infringement and text cycling, of course. Salami slicing is distorting of literature by leading readers to believe that presented is new thing, nothing different. Okay, but it is actually a small sample of the huge data. That's what needs to be mentioned. So declaration when you publish is very important. Data argumentation, collect. You have a small piece of data, keep on adding to it from different studies that you have done. Give it a different tabulation format, analyze it differently and present it. But actually what you have done is the same old data which was presented in different studies, you have put them together and represented. So data augmentation, this is also kind of things, and it will always happen this. Salami slicing, this is an example here, which says that there was one paper published, it came for review. By that time, another paper came for another review, another publish was submitted by the same authors, a set of authors. Now, 1 and 2 were being reviewed, and the third one came to a different reviewer, and they all found that, well, there is some kind of a similarity here. When these 3 papers were put together, they found it was the same study. It was reporting 3 different endpoints, 3 papers, data fragmentation, salami slicing, they are doing this. Paper 1 reported, which was accepted, but paper 2, paper 3, they said, hold on, we are not going to look at this, we are going to say this, we are going to talk to the author, we are going to find out what it is and understand it well before we accept these 2 papers. P2 and P3 were therefore put on hold as per COPE guidelines because the results were contradictory. The clarifications were asked and suggested that you combine these 2 papers and present it as one, where it will accept it. The author refused and withdrew the paper. As per COPE guidelines, the author has the right to withdraw. Of course, it's his publication, he can withdraw. But withdrawing doesn't stop the issue. So there are guidelines, and as per COPE guidelines, they say if you raise the overall integrity and reliability of the author's stay, and therefore they should be followed up by the editors to an endpoint of conclusion that what it actually is and settle the issue. So withdrawing by authors doesn't really sort out the matter. Okay, so this is what is COPE guideline about. So that test recycling, of course, I'll just move about because you make a redundant publication out. Paraphrasing is area which is the most most big find these paragraphs being copied or highlighted in the text and saying that these have come from this source and that source and that source. And you see there's a huge list of sources. There are cited in text citations also, yet it is picked up because they are badly paraphrased. Now this is an example. Now this is a big paragraph, so just look at these blue words that I've said. And then if I want to do it, I have 2 ways of doing it. In the first one, I'm keeping the structure of the sentence same. I'm also using and I'm just replacing some words. So I've reduced the blue ones and they have come in, but they're actually similar. If you see these experience, consistor, peripheral, subordinates, and then it is the same thing, peripheral, subordinate, conscious, subject, it is the same. Not much change. I've cited, but still it will be picked up by plagiarism. Is the program of cognitive is that research focuses on without clarifying how these are connected to the brain center. I'm speaking what the earlier paragraphs have said. The context and the meaning is same. It is in my own words. I'm permitted to use up to 10 to 20% of the words of the original authors because there are certain words which don't change, right? Like, you know, if you are looking at peripheral subordinate systems, this has to remain, this phrase has to remain as it is. It cannot be stated in any other way. So I'm going to use it. But otherwise, the meaning of that paragraph or what the original author wanted to convey, I have kept the same, but I have worded it in my own ways and sense. We don't see any fuzziness here, but there is a fuzziness whereabout control leads to the underplay of mind work. So I've said, and then I have cited with the page number. So it depends upon what citation style I use, but this is how it should be done. Another one is, this is the first one, original one, has instruction approach stability. This is a content for reconstructing learning order progress academically. Look at this. The underlined ones are same as their type of instruction gives students different ways to deal with graph information. So I'm saying this, I have cited here. There is no, but I have cited here. Still it will be picked up because it is very similar. The structure of the sentence has not changed. But if I write it, the teachers use differentiate instructions to help students learn, allowing teacher to cater lessons to the way each student learns and each student's skills, and I source it or cite it. See now look, if I go to the previous one, it's a huge paragraph, about 4 sentences. If I come back here, I have said it in my own words. It is a single sentence and I've cited, but yet I'm conveying what Thompson has said, and it is related to my entire text that I'm writing. That's how paraphrasing should be done. So paraphrasing is changing words, structure remains the same. And second one is changing the words as well as the structure in my own words. It is not necessary that the summary that I make or the paraphrase that I do is of equal length as the original. No, I can reduce it to a single sentence and yet convey the same thing. Because what is important is my text. Why I'm citing? Because it is supporting what I'm perceiving or what I've observed or what is the outcome of my research. And that's why it supports. And that is why I need to paraphrase. So what is another example? So what is happening in this when you retract is years apart, literature, web-based journals, very difficult to trace and copying. So actions, apology was published in newsletter. It doesn't help. This is the study which happened by D. Rekha, some from chemistry, and there was a retraction. The retraction happened much later. This was published much differently, 2006. And then when it comes down to year, it began 2008, it was retracted. Here it is, the retraction 8. So it becomes very difficult. And when you look at this, these are the different observations that we made in the earlier themes also, that there are years apart, there are gray literatures in abstract format. So original article is something different. Web-based journals, the gray area is never indexed. Difficult to trace copying and actions, retractions, announcements of associations, apologies. Everything happens, but there's no use. It is already circulated, it is already cited by so many people. Later on, you cite it as retracted journal. Okay, so the apology is published, but the apology doesn't make any use once it is gone out. It's out, right? So be very careful about it and do on this. This is another one about image plagiarism. This is a very typical, most of us must have seen, and there was a roar that there was a picture of Chiara Advani, and then somebody said, well, this image has been copied. Now, image has been copied means the idea of presenting the model was copied. And that idea can be copied, an idea can be plagiarized. That's the conceptual. For us in researchers, we may think of images, okay, or we may think of tables, charts, anything that is illustrative for my document. For example, if you're one of us, I and my colleague are writing something on Pandora's box, and we wanted an image of Pandora with her box. And we didn't want to pick it up from any of the images from the resource available on the websites or books or anything. So we asked one of our artist friends to draw one. And because she contributes largely and the images speaks volumes in the text, so we wanted that, and we gave her credit and as well as an authorship to that person. So this is how, so images can be plagiarized. Ideas in the images can be plagiarized as well. You cannot say, well, it is different, the tree is different, or the model is wearing different clothes or anything. You can't say that, okay? The concept of that image was same and you're plagiarized. So there are databases in by publishers who allow you to download their images into your PPT format or into your manuscript, which you should do, because when you download, it downloads with complete citations and permissions from the publishers. And that's very simple. You don't plagiarize at all. And those images, but the only problem is those images cannot be edited by you. You have to adapt them as they are. For example, clinical keys from Science Direct. That's a medical content database, but it allows me to take down images of different systems or slides or presentations that are appearing in that content. And it comes down as the PPT to me, which I can insert into my context or into my text manuscripts, but it comes with the citation and goes with that. So it's very, very simple to do. If you allow, you have a credit, and if you adopt, you make your own changes, say you have adopted and adopted from immediately below the image, and then cite it into your reference as well. So this is about it. So amounts to stealing somebody's idea. Patchwork. Literature review is the best example. We just do a lot of things. Like this is the one example of SPD journal, Wikipedia contributors. Then this is from this. And this example I've taken from this source. So the last date of potential this, and I've given the whole. But before the First World War, SPD was the largest party in Germany, structured these. I don't cite it. So this is the issue with it. And that is why it becomes, I've done a patchwork. I've taken something from here, taken some, presented it myself. I must cite. I can do this, but I must cite this also, and I must cite this also, which I have not done. Okay. So that's why it is plagiarized. And the patchwork is another example. This was a Blazarian novel, a novelist who wrote a lot of books, but she copied from different books, made a story of her own, and she published it. And Amazon was selling his book. And there are some couple of authors who went against it and had a lot of fight. And Amazon had to withdraw every book of hers from the online shopping point. So this is what happens if you do this. You quote, very famous example of Ranveer Singh, our own actor, who quoted eat, sleep, dominate, repeat. The name is Hardik, okay? And the WWF heavyweight manager said he will sue because this phrase is ours. You have modified it, but it is ours. Eat, sleep, conquer, repeat. Right? So that little change of conquer and dominate doesn't say that it is yours. You better cite it if you quote and put it into quotes when you write. So even when you speak and you want to quote somebody, you say, I quote. You say the quote and you say, I unquote. And you give the name of the person from whom you have quoted, or I quote so-and-so person. Put it into quote and say this. So this is what is about quoting. Speech plagiarism, of course. This is an Andy Miller, who was president of some college, and he gave some lecture, the inaugural speech, but he actually copied the speech from a known pastor in the region. And the court said, we don't want a person like this, who sets an example of plagiarizing speech without credits, and the person didn't get the job. Joe Biden, the 47th vice president of USA, in his presidential speech for candidature, actually spoke about what exactly Park Kinnock, the leader of the British Labour, had spoken 4 months ago in the same year. Okay, and this person earned a name as plagiarist and was expelled from the presidential election because of that. So he lost his career for this. It can affect you so badly. That's why these examples. When does they don't occur? When they're common knowledges. Sun shines bright, sun shines, rises in the east. Anybody can write, right? So information that is in public domain, easily available to anyone, you can cite. But that doesn't mean, it is not plagiarism, but that doesn't mean you do not violate copyright law. For example, there is a writer whose poetries are in the public domain, then you can quote that poem, right? You say this is what, but you must also say this is the poet, cite the poet's name, the day the poetry was made. Seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants, and therefore citing is important. No research stands on its own. Even if you do a very nascent research, not done at all, the idea came to you because of the peripheral environment. The idea, the research that you benched upon is because the peripheral environment supported your idea and said, oh, it can happen, just try it. And you established a new fact. So you stood on somebody's shoulders. So cite it. Give credits, and then you receive credits. It's such a great pleasure to give and to receive. So how do I avoid? Understand the types of plagiarism. So keep visiting what kinds happen. While writing, write your own, in your own words, write from the scratch. Do not say, I will copy paste and then I'll change it to my own. That doesn't happen. You're sure to plagiarize. Use quotation marks when I'm quoting with the cite. Not just quote and leave it. Please say whose it is. Paraphrase and summarize in your own words. The length of the paraphrased para or the summary need not be as similar to the original, not necessary. Always cite. It doesn't harm you, it benefits you. Provide complete reference. Never be careless about citing. Be particular. So whenever you read, make it a point to note it down. And one place, all references. If you are tired of that, either an Excel sheet or use citation managers. There are 2 free ones which are very good, Zotero and Mendeley. Use them. There is LitFriend from India also. You can try that too. Check manuscript with plagiarism checker before submitting. Make sure you are well within the controlled areas, limitations. Seek help and advice from your librarian, your peers, your seniors. If you find something which you felt you are uncertain or is making you uneasy, please take help. Always cite. That's very important, which we need to remember. So creativity and plagiarism can be However, if the resemblance uncanny, it is hard to deny either. This is from plagiarismcheck.org. It's a
Participants, you have any doubts, so you can post it in the chat box so that we can answer to it. The speaker is waiting for your questions or clarifications. So just you post your the question, I'll unmute you directly. You can ask the speaker. So any questions from the audience? So just you post your question here so that I can unmute you. Comes from intensity of the Bashir has asked one question. Bashir, you can ask. Bashir?
Yeah, sir.
You can ask question directly to speaker.
Okay, thank you for giving an opportunity to clear my doubt. Madam, actually, how can we confirm the authenticity of a journal? Different journals are available. Some of them are paid journals, some of others are non-paid. So how can we confirm the authenticity of a journal?
Well, the best thing is to find out who is the publisher first. How old is the journal? Look at the different types of authors publishing into it. See whether your peers are there. right? So
Okay.
most of the established commercial publishers, you should not have any problems. The problem is when there are new journals and you don't know whether they are predatory or they are normal journals. UGC publishes a list of acceptable journals.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, you can go to that. But best thing is to see that the journal, when it has started, how long it has been in this field, who are the authors who are contributing to it constantly, what is their editorial policy, what is their reviewing policy. That will also tell you what they do, whether it is blinded, double blinded, whether there is a statistician to look at your data, and how is the process going to be, how long does it take to publish. Because if the editorial process is very stringent, it will take some time. There is no fast track publications in a well established journal. It takes quite some time, right? So that is the way you should be looking at. And moreover, you should see that what are your peer journals in your own domain and constantly follow them. They will help you to decide. When a new journal comes to you in front of you and you would want to talk to it, look into it as a publication, prospective publishing journal, then you must look at its whole history, when it started, who are the people, which institution is backing it, and how often it is going to, because having an ISSN number or having indexed in some abstracting journals really doesn't make sense. There is a back entries happening. So the best thing is to look at these journals, the editorial boards, what are the editorial policies, what are their policies for plagiarism, what are their policies for copyright violations. So if you look at the editorial policies, it will tell you all about these things. And the reviewing process, if that is satisfactory to you in terms of having a well-established standard journals, you may go ahead with it. And whether they charge you for publishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next, Shipad Joshi. So you can ask a question.
Hello.
Shripad Joshi. Yes, you can ask.
Am I audible?
Yes, you can ask.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I would like to ask you that there are whether is it possible to check with the help of websites that our thesis or research is under plagiarism or not, or how many websites are there which are good?
Go to plagiarismchecker.org. That is good. Or you can go to Viper, which is also free. You can submit your manuscripts. It does it free for you. So you have to just upload your file and it will check and come back to you. These two are good.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Next is Dr. Shraddha. Dr. Shraddha Bhume, you can ask.
Yes. Good morning, ma'am. Once again, it was a rocking session by you. I have one doubt. Many times we find a review of literature, that chapter is more in plagiarism. So in order to avoid that, ma'am, I tried paraphrasing. I tried a lot. Even my students' thesis, my name comes in plagiarism of JJT University. So in such case, what to do? Please,
see, writing
review of literature.
Writing literature review is a skill. Okay. Now, why do you write a review is a question that you should ask yourself before you set upon writing. You want to write a review because you want to give a background for your research question, right? So what all you have read, if you just write it in your own words and say, this is why I am saying, because there was research done by this person and this is what it is observed. It makes it easier. That's why I said start from a scratch and write in your own words. Literature review is summary of what you have read and what you have understood in your domain. So it's a skill. Writing is a skill, but it comes to you when you start. But if you say that I have taken this, I copy paste and cite it, then you start patchworking, and your literature review is annotated bibliography than writing. If I read it, I should be reading it as if, oh, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So these are the questions that are being raised. That is why this research. right? So it gives me an overview on a platter about the subject. So that's how it should go, like a storytelling. And not as I read this, then this person said this, then this person said this, then so you are writing your copy paste, your patchwork, and then it will be picked up. There are certain phrases in your domain which you cannot avoid, you may use it. So that is not an issue. But if you do this and you have the whole paragraph, then it is not a review at all. Review means I read all this, this is my observation, but this is my perception. The reasons could be this. Particular person presented a study and had this outcome. The 2-3 people have gone in an opposite direction of the outcome. So why this difference? I just do not write. I react to what I have read. That is review. What we forget is reacting, putting your own perceptions about what I have read. When I forget that, I'm not reviewing, right? My thinking, I have read these things. There are 4 papers. 3 papers talk the same. The 4th one is not talking the same. Why is it not talking the same? Maybe method is different. Maybe population is different. Maybe data was small. Or maybe the complete context of research process was different. Then I must react to this situation. Therefore, I feel this could be the possible areas of concern which were not addressed by the previous 3, addressed by the 4th one, and therefore the differences. However, in practical situations, I observe these things. That's how the literature review goes. So once you write this, there can be no plagiarism at all.
Yes. Thank you, madam. Next, Darshan Joshi. You can speak. Darshan Joshi.
Hello.
Yes, you can speak.
Ma'am, good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good morning.
First of all, the question is like to reduce the plagiarism at its very source. It is advised to read as much as possible. So, where can we find such data so that, and is it right that to reduce the plagiarism at its very base, we have to refer as much as material possible?
You may read everything that is in your domain. That doesn't stop you from plagiarizing.
Yes.
Okay.
Plagiarizing means not representing the facts and not giving credits in a proper order is plagiarism.
Okay.
Okay. Supposing you're doing in some subject and there are some 50 articles, you're writing a seminar paper, all right, on a topic. And for that seminar paper, you read some 75 articles, which according for a period, because when you write a seminar paper, there is a limit for past 2 years, 3 years, some limits are there. So in that period, you created some articles, selected some and you read them. Now you want to rewrite it in your own words. Now I will only reduce it when I do it on my own words, reflecting upon what I read or how I'm applying what I have read into my practical research. Why did I use this methodology? Because I have these issues and this is the person who has established the methodology. I'm picking up the same methodology. So I'm citing the person who developed the methodology for me. Then I'm not plagiarizing.
Okay. Ma'am, where can we find such data? Like we can
What
refer
data?
to various data related to my subject, like whatever I want to research.
For that, you have to go to your own resources, your domain abstracting indexing sources, databases, content bases, books, journals. It's your subject, right? So you should know where to read your own topic. Plagiarism doesn't tell you where to read.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, most.
Good. Next question is from Dr. Avani Mistry. So you can start asking.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, I just want to ask, I have published so many articles, but as you mentioned, I was under impression ISSN number will be enough. But now it is, thank you for enlightening us, that it should be published in a proper journal and under UGC recognized journal. But I didn't earlier. So what should I do to do that?
What you have published, you cannot republish.
Yes.
Okay.
What you have already published, you cannot republish. That is duplication.
Okay.
And duplication is plagiarism.
Agree, ma'am. So it was just gone. It was literally gone in a vein, or it have a little bit any value
No.
to
See,
article. So
listen. Don't get so worried.
Mm.
That you published in an ISSN journal, which is not listed under UGC, doesn't seem to say that you have published in a predatory journal. It doesn't mean that. It may still be an authentic journal, only it is not a well-known journal. Maybe. I do not know which journal you're talking
yeah, it
about.
is not. That's why I was worried. It is not.
So it is not necessary, but you must, when you are putting up a good research, ensure you are putting it in a good journal. It can be in Indian journal.
Yeah, having
Actually,
a very good high impact factor as well as indexing is also very, very important. So nowadays,
indexing can happen, sir. I will
Yeah.
tell you, there are so many journals which get indexed. There are so many medical journals which get indexed in PubMed, but they are predatory.
predatory, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so indexing is only distributing, making people aware that you have subscribed to, you have published here.
Yes.
The purpose of indexing is very different. When we say this is an index journal, earlier we used to take a pride that my journal in which I have published is indexed in PubMed or biological abstracts or chemical abstracts, right? But nowadays, predatory journals get an entry here also, because predatory journals get cited. When predatory journals get cited, they get indexed. When they get indexed, they are officially there.
Yes.
And as a user, you do not know whether it is predatory or it is this. So sometimes, and later on, if that journal is described as labeled as a predatory, no more journals go to there. Your good article goes unnoticed or uncited or unreferred. And that is why while publishing, we ensure that you're putting it in a good journal.
But ma'am, earlier, really you enlighten us very nicely. Earlier, I was not aware about many things which you have mentioned.
Thank you. I'm glad it
Thank you for that.
So any more questions from any participants? If no more questions, we can proceed. Any the doubts or clarifications still, madam is with us. You can ask and clarify your the doubts. Any participant? Just to post it here so that I can unmute you. Okay, fine. Raghavendra, you can carry on. Okay, no more questions. Okay, fine. So many of you are requested for the video. We will send the video. Raghavendra, we can carry on if there is no the further questions from the participants.
Now I request few participants to give their valuable feedback about today's webinar.
So anybody wanted to give feedback about today's the presentation? Just you post it here so that I can unmute you, so you can share your feedback with the speaker also. Darshan Joshi, you wanted to speak? Yes, you can speak, Darshan.
Hello.
Yes, you can speak.
Sir, thank you to you and also Medha ma'am for giving such a valuable session. Because I was enlightened, because many of the things I had heard for the first time, and which will be useful because I have not yet started researching. So thank you very much.
So definitely. Srinivas MR, you wanted to say something? Professor Srinivas MR. Srinivas MR.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So the lecture was very nice, Dr. Ramchandra, and so many things which were not known to us, so we came to know. Thank you very much for all these things. And one more thing, I want to ask a question to Madam.
Yes, you can ask.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, the lecture was very nice, ma'am. So informative. The thing is, so should we indicate numbers in the
Hello,
references?
your voice is breaking. Can you come again?
Yeah. So
Repeat your
can we?
question.
Yeah. So should we or can we use DOI numbers of the papers in the references?
Yes, you have to. You have to. When you list your references at the end of your manuscript, you must give complete. And now because everything is electronic, the DOI gives a digital object identifier for that particular article or paper or books, whatever it is. So you must, and there are publisher guidelines for author instructions. You will always find they ask you to add not only DOI, but also index numbers. That means if any, for example, if your article is, journal is abstracted in biological abstracts, they will say give you BA number, biological abstract ID number. If it is PubMed, it says PMID. If it is chemical abstract, this is chemical abstracts registry number. Many people, many publishers will ask you to give a complete citation along with the DOI and the index number.
Yes.
Sure.
When you download a citation in your reference manager, by default, it will download everything that is there that identifies the journal, that article.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
It's always, I will recommend use some citation manager where whatever it is with you, available with you. Yeah.
Sure.
Dr. Avni Mistry, you can speak.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. Frankly, I have done my PhD, but maybe I have not known about all these things, about article and all this publishing. Agree with the plagiarism thing, but not in this much detail. So thank you so much for giving us such a great, I mean, if I'm using some negative words, but frankly, I was really shocked that whatever we have done or whatever I have done, it was a little bit not up to the mark, not because of the research or something, but because of this publishing thing and plagiarism citation thing. So thank you so much for giving all the clear idea about all these things. So we can improve in the future. And if I'm going to write something in the future, so I can write properly and in this way. So it will be a really proper. Thank you.
Sure. There is always a learning phase for everyone every time. So no issues. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Pratiksha, you can speak. Pratiksha.
Hello.
Yes, you can
Very
speak.
good noon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, sir. Hello, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful session.
Thank you.
I am Pratiksha from AJ Institute of Engineering and Technology from Mangaluru. Ma'am, I've been through many webinars on writing papers, all that, but this was really an eye-catching session because many of us just are blindly following some tips to write the papers and all, but this session really was an eye-opening for me because I had not thought in this perception also. Just we had an idea about plagiarism, but the thing is like we have not to copy, but all these whatever you give the information today was really worth it, ma'am. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad it's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am.
Bhavesh, you can give your feedback. Yes, Bhavesh. Bhavesh. Hello. Okay, thank you for your feedbacks. So, Raghavendra, you can proceed.
So now I request Dr. of Sanatana Research and Training Institute to summarize about today's webinar.
So as I told at the beginning, this the national level webinar is mainly organized to give in-depth information about the plagiarism. Always we use this plagiarism while writing our paper or to submit our thesis to fulfill the university requirement or the journal requirement. But we don't know how to plan it properly and how to organize it, how to incorporate, how to avoid these things. So in this the gut test, so I have contacted Dr. Medha Joshi. She has agreed and she gave consent. Within a week she responded to my request, and she gave everyone, all of us, a very good informative session on this plagiarism and professional ethics. She covered each and every aspect of this, starting from the ethics we have to follow while publishing the paper or the thesis, whatever it is. And he clearly mentioned when does the plagiarism occurs and what are the different types of plagiarism. Okay, only we know about plagiarism. So when does the plagiarism occur and what are the different ways or types, okay, wherein the plagiarism comes into picture. She has, with example, she has given a very good the presentation, and also she has highlighted the UGC norms or guidelines for percentage of plagiarism aspects with lot of examples she has given. And at the end she also mentioned how to avoid this the plagiarism, okay, to bring it within the acceptable level, either in the paper or in the thesis. So this is the overall review of the entire today's presentation. So once again I thank Dr. Medha Joshi for accepting our invitation and sparing her time with us and sharing the entire information about the plagiarism and us. Okay, thank you one and all.
Thank you.
Gratitude is the essence of humanity. Now I thank today's speaker, Dr. Medha Joshi, consultant, Information Management and Service and Bioethics, Tata Memorial Center, Mumbai, for an informative session regarding plagiarism. Now I also thank Dr. Ramchandra CG, Managing Director, Sanatana Research and Training Institute, and Dr. Raghavendra Prasad MD, President, Rotary Club of Mysuru West, for their involvement in organizing this one-day faculty development program and national webinar. So finally, I thank all the participants for your active participation in the one-day faculty development program national webinar. Thank you one and all.
May I leave Dr. Raghavendra now?
Yes, madam. Thank you, madam, once again. Thanks a lot.
Because I have another meeting now, so I need
Okay, fine. Yes.